Before Dracula, there were whispers. Across continents, cultures told of creatures that fed on blood and refused to die. Tonight, we look at 5 ancient vampire legends that predate Dracula. These are the real monsters that may have inspired Bram Stoker's novel, and these creatures aren't just from legend. Some experts believe they might be based on actual historical figures who suffered from a rare medical condition. Let's dive into the dark history of vampires. 5. The Strigoi of Romania. We've got to start with the Strigoi. This Romanian creature is one of the earliest known vampire-like figures in European folklore. But what exactly is a Strigoi? In old Romanian texts, the word Strigoi meant evil spirit or demon. As such, the Strigoi was believed to be an evil entity that used a corpse as a vessel, causing it to bloat, rise, and drink the blood of family members. You see, the Strigoi was summoned through a blood ritual, and it would stay with the family for 7 years, growing stronger until it finally left to find a new host. The Strigoi was said to inhabit corpses, reanimating them and turning them into vampires. A vampire, according to Romanian folklore, was an evil spirit that caused a person to bloat, rise, and drink the blood of family members. Though the term Strigoi appears in old Romanian texts dating back to the 17th century, the beliefs behind it are much older, possibly going all the way back to pagan times. During the Middle Ages, the Christian Church tried to stamp out these pagan beliefs. But when villagers heard that the church was trying to keep secret the deeds of an evil spirit that had been passed down for generations, they became even more convinced that the church was hiding important knowledge from them. The result was that people became even more superstitious and afraid of vampires than before. One of the most horrifying aspects of the Strigoi myth is that it was believed to be able to possess not just bodies, but also living humans. If a person was possessed by a Strigoi, they would become violent and unpredictable, lashing out and biting others, including family members and even priests. To protect themselves against Strigoi attacks, families would often take drastic measures, such as burying their loved ones upside down or performing rituals designed to trap the spirit. These beliefs continued until the 19th century when Stoker wrote his famous novel, and the image of the vicious Romanian Strigoi likely contributed to the creation of the modern vampire myth. 4. The Jiangshi of China. Now let's journey to ancient China, where we encounter the Jiangshi. These were terrifying creatures that were said to prey on the living by draining their vital essence. The word Jiangshi means hopping vampire in Cantonese, and these creatures were typically depicted as bloated corpses that would rise from their graves and hop around on their toes. Though the origins of the Jiangshi legend are unknown, these creatures first appeared in written form during the Qing dynasty. According to Chinese folklore, Jiangshi were created when a corpse was buried without the proper burial rituals. They would then rise from their graves and float around as pale, translucent beings with long fingernails and sharp teeth. The Jiangshi would then seek out family members to drain of their life essence, causing them to become weaker and eventually die themselves. So how do you defend yourself from a hopping vampire? Well, in Chinese folklore, there were a few ways to stop a Jiangshi attack. One method was to place a red paper amulet on the door of your home to ward off evil spirits. Another was to cover mirrors with white cloth to prevent the Jiangshi from using them to steal your soul. But perhaps the most gruesome defense was to engage in a ritual battle with the creature. This involved poking the corpse full of holes to release its evil spirit. Once the spirit was gone, the body could then be cremated and the ashes scattered to prevent it from returning. Some believe that the legends of the Jiangshi were actually inspired by cases of porphyria, a rare disease that causes blisters around the mouth and fangs. Those afflicted with this disease would have appeared very similar to the Jiangshi described in folklore. Others believe the myths were inspired by an ancient Chinese execution method in which criminals were sewn up in coffins while still alive. These living corpses would have likely exhibited some of the same characteristics as the Jiangshi, such as the ability to hop and move around despite being trapped in a coffin. Regardless of their origin, the legend of the Jiangshi remained popular in Chinese culture for centuries and continues to inspire modern horror stories and films today. 3. The Vatala of India. Now let's travel to ancient India, where we encounter the Vatala, a terrifying creature that haunted travelers at night. In Hindu mythology, the Vatala were malevolent spirits that inhabited corpses and caused them to bloat, rise, and drink the blood of family members. Similar to the Strigoi and the Jiangshi, the Vatala were said to be drawn to corpses and would use them as vessels to carry out their evil deeds. The word Vatala comes from the Sanskrit word meaning to blow, and these creatures were often depicted as bloated corpses that were blown about by the wind. Vatalas were believed to be particularly active during the nights of March and April, and they were known for preying on travelers who dared to venture out after dark. These creatures were said to lure their victims off the road and into the wilderness, where they would then be lost forever. To protect oneself from the Vatala, travelers would often carry protective amulets or charms, such as a ring made from the finger of a Brahmin, which was believed to ward off evil spirits. Despite these precautions, the Vatala were feared throughout ancient India, and their presence was seen as a bad omen. The legend of the Vatala remained popular in Indian folklore for centuries and continues to inspire modern horror stories and films today. In fact, one of the most famous tales featuring the Vatala is the Vatala Pankavatika, an ancient Indian text that dates back to the 4th century CE. The story follows a king named Vikramaditya who sets out to slay a powerful demon. On his journey, he meets a sage who warns him of the dangers ahead and tells him that the only way to defeat the demon is to use trickery and wit. Overcoming numerous obstacles and battling terrifying creatures, Vikramaditya eventually confronts the demon and uses his intelligence to outsmart it, saving himself and his kingdom. This epic tale has been adapted numerous times in various art forms, including theater, painting, and literature. It remains one of the most enduring examples of Indian folklore and helps us understand the cultural significance of the Vatala in Indian society. 2. The Upir of Eastern Europe. Let's now explore the folklore of Eastern Europe and discover the Upir. The Upir was a creature that was said to live in the bodies of vampires, causing them to rise and feed on the blood of family members. Similar to the Strigoi, the Upir was believed to be an evil spirit that used a corpse as a vessel, causing it to bloat, rise, and drink the blood of family members. The word Upir comes from the Slavic word for to burn, and these creatures were often depicted as corpses that would burn with an unnatural fire, causing their bodies to bloat and their veins to bulge. According to Slavic folklore, the Upir was the result of a curse placed on a family by a witch or other malevolent spirit. The curse would then be passed down through the generations, causing each member of the family to turn into a vampire upon their death. To break the curse, families had to perform elaborate rituals, such as pouring holy water on the corpse or placing garlic around the grave. But if the rituals were not performed correctly, the Upir would rise and claim more victims. While the legend of the Upir is similar to those of other vampire-like creatures, it has some unique characteristics. For example, the Upir was believed to be able to control the minds of those it fed on, turning them into vampires themselves. This spread of vampirism through mental manipulation set it apart from other creatures that simply drained the blood from their victims. The belief in the Upir was widespread in Eastern Europe during the Middle Ages and led to widespread fear and persecution of those suspected of being vampires. In some cases, entire villages were wiped out by the undead. However, as time went on, the legend of the Upir began to fade away, replaced by the more modern conception of the vampire. Number 1. The Loup-garou of the Caribbean. Now let's turn our attention to the Caribbean, where we encounter the Loup-garou, a creature that was said to prowl the islands at night, preying on the blood of humans. This blood-sucking monster is said to appear in various shapes, from a hairy wild man to a ferocious wolf-like beast. One of the most fascinating aspects of the loup-garou myth is its connection to the loup-garou, a similar creature from French folklore. The loup-garou was believed to be a werewolf-like creature that could transform into a wolf at will. This creature was said to live in the mountains of France and was known for preying on livestock and occasionally humans. The legend of the loup-garou eventually made its way to the Caribbean, where it took on a life of its own. The African slaves brought over to work on the plantations in the Caribbean brought with them their own folklore, including stories of shape-shifting creatures. When these slaves encountered the loup-garou, they incorporated it into their own mythology, transforming it into the loup-garou. One of the key differences between the loup-garou and its French counterpart is that the loup-garou was not seen as a werewolf, but rather as an entirely separate creature. The loup-garou was believed to be a malevolent spirit that could possess a human host, causing them to transform into a ferocious beast. The afflicted person would then go on a rampage, biting and killing anyone in their path. To defend oneself from the loup-garou, various methods were employed, such as carrying a silver knife or wearing a necklace made from the ashes of a burnt-up chicken. These items were believed to ward off the evil spirit and prevent it from possessing its host. Despite the fear and superstition surrounding the loup-garou, there is no evidence that these attacks were anything more than a misunderstanding. The symptoms of a loup-garou attack, such as foaming at the mouth and a loss of control, are consistent with rabies, a disease that can cause humans to behave like animals. Additionally, the physical characteristics of the loup-garou, such as its hairy appearance and wolf-like features, may have been inspired by cases of hypertrichosis, a rare medical condition that causes excessive hair growth. Ultimately, the legend of the loup-garou serves as a reminder of the lengths to which people will go to explain the unknown and the power of folklore to shape our understanding of the world around us. These legends have echoed through the ages, influencing literature, art, and film. Now it's time to hear from you. Which of these ancient vampire legends was the most intriguing to you? And do you think these stories were inspired by real-life phenomena or purely mythical creatures? Share your thoughts below. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe for more spine-chilling tales and leave a like if you want to see more videos like this. And here's another video you might enjoy.